Hey guys, it's Smudge here, and we're back again in the Focke-Wulf FW-190 D9 Dora. Now, the first video didn't go so well. Managed to kind of start the aircraft up and show a bit of takeoff, but didn't actually manage to get airborne, which wasn't very good. Now, what I have been doing is kind of just practicing takeoffs and different takeoff techniques to see if I can find a way that's easier in getting off the ground, and I think I've managed to not perfect it, but at least find something that's let's say much easier in getting airborne, and we'll go over that when we get to the runway, and hopefully we'll be able to get airborne this time and have a bit of a flight about. So I'm just going to go through the startup sequence here, just switching on the circuit breakers and making the aircraft ready to fly. So turning on the boost pumps and the electric circuit breakers here. We'll turn on the magnetos, put the throttle into idle. I'll also set my flaps to takeoff position ready, so that when we hit the runway, we'll almost be ready to go there. So I'll just hit the primer a few times here, just squirt some fuel into the engine, get it ready to go. Turn on the fuel selection valves or fuel tank selector. Then we'll start the flywheel spinning here. Hold that down for about 25 seconds, then see if we can get the engine to fire. So I can just hear the flywheel start to spin up there. It's a nice little whirring sound in the background there. It's very difficult to hear, but when you're quiet you can just hear it whirring away. And we'll pull it up. And the engine goes firing away, nice and easy, nice quick startup sequence. Now what we're going to do here is taxi out, take onto runway, and then see if we can get airborne nice and easy. And I'll just go through quickly what I'm going to do on the takeoff when we get there.
Flight 1, airborne.
So that's our little AI compatriot there signing in saying he's get airborne, but we'll just shut him up for now by turning the radio volume down. Again, just controlling our taxi here using the wheel brakes. Again, just turn in with a tap the left brake and then stop your turn with the tap of the right brake. Oops. Wrong wheel brake. Again, just small taps on the brake in order to keep you kind of going where you need to be, and then you can pull the stick back just to lock the tail wheel and allow you to go nice and straight. And we'll just hit the brakes here and then turn onto the runway. Now I've got pretty proficient at taxiing because I've done plenty of it, but I've not had much airtime as it has been very difficult getting the aircraft off the ground. What we'll do is that we'll just lock the tail wheel here and then line ourselves up. Now what I found the easiest way to get this thing airborne, it might not work for everybody. Now during Matt Wag's demonstration of how to take off in a Dora, he says just gently ease up the throttle, controlling yourself as you're going down a runway. Personally, I say sod that. The easiest way I found of getting this thing airborne is just jamming the throttle all the way forward. Maximum power. It builds up airspeed incredibly quickly, but you manage to get above 200 kilometers an hour very quickly, which is where the aircraft actually starts becoming controllable. And you find out the aircraft's actually much more stable through the takeoff, and you have very few mishaps. So what I'm doing here is just opening up the engine cowling so that we're not going to overheat the engine here. As you can see, as we're idling on the ground, it's already starting to build up a lot of temperature here. And if we just look external, there you go, nice little sound of the engine burbling away there, and the cowl flaps open, just to allow the engine to cool itself down a bit there. Again, test the control surfaces, rudder, ailerons and elevator. So during the takeoff roll, what I'm going to do is just hold the stick back to keep the tail wheel locked till I start passing 200, and I'm just going to let the stick center itself. That'll bring the tail wheel up, and then very, very quickly we'll start hitting about 250, 300 kilometers an hour, and then we'll hopefully get airborne. So hold the stick back. I'm just going to push the throttle up here, gain airspeed nice and quickly, so just advancing the throttle almost to full straight away. Again, controlling the roll with the throttle, watching the airspeed needle there start climbing very, very, very quickly. And again, as soon as it starts hitting 200 there, just bring the stick forward. There we go. Airborne, nice and easy. So much simpler than just... now just clean up the undercarriage there and then bring up the flaps. So undercarriage and flaps buttons up there. And I find that so much easier than feathering the throttle and trying to control the torque down the runway by just jamming it forward and building that airspeed really quickly. It keeps the aircraft nice and controlled. You know, you get the airspeed that you need over the control surfaces, and you're able to control the aircraft with the rudder really easy, and you don't end up as a smashed wreck in a runway with your arse on fire. And that's just airborne. And this is where the Focke-Wulf really starts to shine. I'll just start pulling back on the power here just a little bit so I'm not overheating the engine. But compared to the P-51, the Focke-Wulf, it's so much easier to fly. It's almost a dream to fly. You know, it just kind of takes care of everything itself. It's got very little in the way of necessity in the way of engine management. All you need to really do is just control the cam flaps there on the front by just opening and closing them, just to make sure that the uncage the artificial horizon there as well, just to make sure that the engine isn't overheating or getting too cool. Other than that, you know, you just kind of set the throttle to what you want it to be to control your speed, and then fly about. It really is as easy as that. And I have found that this is a really forgiving aircraft as well. You can throw it around the sky. It very rarely snaps on you, or when it does snap on you, it's very easy to control. It's got a lovely roll rate. It climbs very well. It dives very well. I did a maximum speed dive. I got over 800 kilometers an hour. All I did is just pull back on the stick, gently pull back on the stick, kill the throttle, and then I was able to climb out nice and easy. You know, it didn't feel as though I was going to be ripping the wings off or doing any damage. And as you can see in the dive here, the airspeed with the throttle forward just climbs so quickly. It really is a race car. It's got such a powerful engine in there. And just start leveling off our descent here, and that's us up to 700 kilometers an hour after such a quick dive as well. And it's so precise. You know, it's just got absolutely no lag to control. You know, it's just so snappy. You can just throw it about all over the sky and not worry about you know, rolling on you, snapping on you, throwing into the ground and killing you. You know, it really is kind of a magnificent aircraft. You know, it really is German engineering at its best, and you know, it's very easy to see why you know, it was kind of an admired aircraft through the war. You know, it was one of Germany's most superior fighters. You know, a lot of people, you know, they'll go on about the Bf-109 G and K series and the Spitfires and the Hurricanes, but really, you know, the Focke-Wulf is, you know, where the innovation came from. You know, now the A series Focke-Wulfs, the A1, A2, they did have a radial engine, which, you know, made them very kind of sluggish, slightly underpowered. Now they were very, very superior down low. You know, it's where the Focke-Wulf shined. But as you started climbing up, the engines just lost that performance. And this is where the inline Dora came in. You know, it was the same Focke-Wulf chassis which had that snappiness, the controllability, the ability to throw the aircraft around the sky. But it also had the engine behind it. You know, it had that power. You know, it had the ability of really being able to kind of keep up with the likes of the P-51 and the Spitfire Mark 9, and it really became feared by Allied forces. You know, the sort of D9 and later the TA-152. And you know, they knew that they're up against a really capable fighter and something that was you know, really seriously capable of ruining their day. You know, so yeah, in the way that German engineering go, that this is one aircraft where they really got it right. You know, that they managed to balance it perfectly. And in the first video I was going on about how it's strange that it only has, as you can see on this button here, just elevator trim. It doesn't have aileron or rudder trim. But with the correct throttle settings, as you can see, that the bug's pretty much centered there anyway on the artificial horizon. We're just slipping slightly, but we're not really being penalised for it. You know, the aircraft's just kind of dragging itself through the air with that massive engine and huge propeller. Excuse me, just trying not to curb here slightly. If we look external, one thing you will notice is that, especially in higher engine settings, it actually does like to roll to the right. So it does take just a little bit of counter roll on the stick, but it's nothing major. It's quite easy to control. She is quite a stable, sleek aircraft. You know, massive engine, huge long nose. Really is kind of an unmistakable aircraft. And also, you know, having the two cannons and two machine guns right there on the nose and the winglets, you know, it really is a deadly aircraft. You know, it does a lot of damage. And if we just enable the cannons here by turning on the master arm and turn on the gun sight here, we'll just see if we can't give these a quick squirt. Now, I don't really have any targets set up on this map. I do have some ground targets further down, but if we just point towards someone's house here and knock on their door, a nice white one down there. As you can see, that the gun sight is floating there slightly, so it is predicting where the round should be landing, and then we'll just give this a quick squirt. And again, one thing I have found is that the machine guns and the cannons all seem to be firing off the same button. I haven't found a control yet to fire the cannons and the machine guns separately, so just like externally, they'll just fire together. And lots of cartridges flying away from the aircraft there, and as you can see, that's the cannon rounds detonating after a certain range, which is quite interesting. Now we'll just put those to sleep. Lights off, showing that the weapons are safe. And then what we'll do is that we'll circle back round here, head back to the airbase, and see if we can do a nice landing. Now, one thing I have found that is, as long as you control your rate of descent, that the aircraft is actually fairly easy to land. It's much easier to land than what it is to take off, that's for damn sure. So we'll just start heading back towards the airbase here. And again, you know, I'm not stressing the aircraft here. I've got the throttle set to about 90%. Just controlling the rate of pitch here with the trim, just trying to keep the aircraft flying straight. And just quite happily, you know, just zipping through the air here at 500 kilometers an hour, which is, I don't know in miles an hour, but it's pretty damn quick. Also, another thing I wanted to show you was the FW-190, which you can turn on there, and then when you go to full power, you'll see this gauge kick in here. There we go, and then boom, you get a massive surge from the engine with the FW-190, and it just turns into a rocket ship. I mean, this is straight level flight. You know, as you can see here, we're not really well, climbing just marginally there, not descending, but it's just so much extra power from that water methanol injection. And again, it's not really kind of overheating the engine, the temperatures are still stable there. You know, that's at full power, flying pretty much. In fact, we're in something of a climb here, and it's just dragging itself up to 600 kilometers an hour thereabouts. And if we just turn the water methanol injection off, as you can see, the needle drops off there, saying that it's no longer, you know, inputting. And then we've just lost speed gradually. Now, you know, we're still slightly climbing, but the airspeed's just dropping back down towards 500 there, and that's just the extra power that you get from the water methanol injection, or the FW-190. And then I'll just pull back on the throttle here, just you know, giving the engine a bit of a breather. Again, got the cowl flaps open at the front there, which you know, keep the engine nice and cool, or it loses temperature nice and quickly there. And then you can just control those. I've set it on my HOTAS in order to kind of open and close those as desired, so I can make sure that the engine isn't getting too hot or too cold. And then let's see if we can approach and then have a nice safe landing here. So what we'll do is a nice overflight of the airfield, and then we'll break off, circle back round, and then come in for a landing. So Again, just powering up here, building airspeed really quickly in the dive again. Again, that's us passing nearly 700 kilometers an hour. Again, that's full power. So stable, such a stable aircraft. And that's us topping out at about 700 kilometers an hour there at full power. Still slight dive. There we go, that's a full power about 650 kilometers an hour coming over the airfield here. And I'll just give a wave to the other crewmen and the aircraft parked down there. Okay, so here we are, we're just downwind after a break coming off the airfield there. Just pulling back on the stick here to start slowing down. Then as we get down to about 350 kilometers an hour, I'll just lower the flaps on the undercarriage, and then we'll turn on and see if we can come in for landing. So that's flaps and undercarriage. And if we go external, you can just see those coming out there. Again, it's got such a wide undercarriage, which makes it nice and stable on the ground when you're taxiing. But for some reason, when trying to take off in this aircraft, it does become a bit of a nightmare. It comes quite a lot to handle. So just applying a bit more power here, just in the turn, keep myself about 300 kilometers an hour, and I want to be landing at about 250 kilometers an hour. So just lining up on the runway. Coming in with a slightly high approach, but it allows me to keep my nose down so I can keep the runway visual. If you come in on a standard approach with the nose level, you find that you do lose sight of the runway very quickly. So I like to have a slightly higher approach with the nose down, just trimming back here as the nose seems to want to be pitching down. Then we'll see if we can't make a nice gentle touchdown. Again, slightly high approach, but allows me to keep an eye on the runway. Again, controlling my speed, keeping it just above 250 knots. Cutting back on the throttle now and starting to flare. Just keeping a nice and gentle, just airspeed starting to bleed off now. Slight bounce. A lovely 3-point landing with a bit of a bounce there just for good measure. Now I'll pull the stick back there, locking the tail wheel, and then just control my direction coming down the runway here so I don't end up coming off the runway. Again, just rudder inputs here, just keep myself going straight. And then there we are, at a nice safe speed down on the runway. Now landing is much easier than taking off, as you can see. But what we'll do there is that we'll just push in a little bit of brake here, and again steering with the brakes, we'll pull ourselves off the runway here. Again, just using the brakes and locking the tail wheel here just to allow us to go straight. And then we'll just park this here. And then shut off the throttle, the engine and the magnetos. Just bring the engine to a stop. Now I hope that you've enjoyed the video. I've certainly enjoyed making it. It's been a bit of an experience learning how to fly this aircraft. It is as you've seen, a bit tricky on the old takeoff. However, flying it's fairly easy. It's a nice aircraft to fly. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to go walk my dogs, and I'll hopefully put a video up later on tonight with a bit of air combat with the Wolf versus the Pony. And as always, take care, and we'll see you next time.